I was tired, I was frustrated, I was angry, and there was all this stuff inside. I feel like God just began to bring things to the surface, like junk I'd pushed down, bitterness I'd pushed down, all that stuff. But in the midst of him kind of doing open heart surgery, the Sabbath was a massive piece where he was like, you are not resting at all. You are not getting recharged. You're not getting refilled. You are running way too hard. And it's just going to lead to you being the worst version of yourself.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Iron Deep podcast. My name is Michael Stansbury. With me is Josh Howard. We're both hosts, part-time hosts, fill-in hosts for Mr. Brett Snodgrass. We're like
Brett, the man, the myth, and the legend, Brett Snodgrass.
Absolutely, we're the utility ball players of this whole thing. Josh, again, thanks for coming on. We're going to be talking about a subject today that needs our attention, needs everybody's attention. That's the Sabbath. And what the plan is for men and men that are leaders of their families, men that need to utilize this wonderful gift that God has given us to kind of recharge, rejuvenate, and just all the benefits of really obeying the Sabbath. So we were talking offline. We're going to talk about a little. I want you to share kind of a story, kind of your story about the Sabbath in a season of your life. So we can get started with it. So Josh, take it away, sir.
Yeah, man. So basically, I want us to hear as we're, kind of together on this, I guess the dangers of seasons when you're not quite Sabbathing well. There was a season of life. So for those of you that may not know this, I spent 16 and a half years in India overseas as a missionary. And our family was working incredibly hard. I mean, we had a focus, and we were really running hard after the kingdom and really wanting to do everything that we could to see the kingdom expand in South Asia. But what ended up happening was there was a very long season of life where I worked 6 days a week. And then Sunday was the quote unquote Sabbath in my life. But in all reality, for those of you in professional ministry, you know that Sunday is no Sabbath whatsoever. It is a work day. And what I ended up finding myself doing was working Monday through Saturday, and then maybe getting, half a day Saturday or something at times, and at times not. But then thinking Sunday was my day off, but then ended up in the church every Sunday working and meeting with people and counseling and praying. And it ended up really, practically speaking, although Sunday was meant to be a day off, it really was a day of work. And so for quite a few years, I lived like that. I was working 6 days a week, had maybe a half day Saturday, and then was working Sunday. And it ended up leading to a season that I really will only call, deep, dark depression is really what it was. I was burning the candle at both ends. I wasn't getting good rest. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't getting charged well. I was pouring out all week long and not getting filled again. What ends up happening when a lot of times when we're not consistent with Sabbath, at least what happened in my life was I also wasn't consistent with alone time with the Lord every day on an extended period of time, right? Now, I would pray here and there, and I would still spend time with Jesus, and I'd still read the Word. But when I'm not spending, when I don't have time to spend the whole day of Sabbath, resting and recharging and relaxing, I wasn't also having time to spend time getting poured in by Jesus either throughout the week. And so it was kind of a double whammy or a double-edged sword there. It was just leading to burnout, really, is what was happening. And so it was about, I'd say 2015 or so, I started noticing some things in my life, bro, that were just not good, man. I mean, bitterness, anger, frustration. I'd snap at everything. I mean, I'm talking, just super irritability and all of that. I was tired. I was frustrated. I was angry. And there was all this stuff inside. And when I look back on that season, it really was tied to, Michael, like that season of no rest and no Sabbath. And I wasn't in a healthy spot emotionally or physically. And so it kind of came to a head where as I noticed myself snapping and getting more and more angry, I sat down one day after blowing up on somebody, really is what happened. I just exploded on a staff member for very little reason. Okay. And I sat down at my desk and just broke down. And I began to pray and be like, God, what is wrong with me? There is something wrong. This is not me. It's never been me. What is going on? And for a couple hours, Michael, I feel like God just began to bring things to the surface, like junk I'd pushed down, bitterness I'd pushed down, all that stuff. But in the midst of him kind of doing open heart surgery, the Sabbath was a massive piece where he was like, bro, you are not resting at all. You are not getting recharged. You're not getting refilled. You are running way too hard. And it's just going to lead to you being the worst version of yourself. That's what's going to happen. And so throughout that season, I did a few things in order to try to really turn things around and to hand it back over to Jesus. We don't have time to go into all of it right now, but one of the big things was I started taking Saturdays off because Sunday was not a Sunday for me, and as a professional minister, was not a day off. So Saturday became my Sabbath, where I quit working Saturdays. I would block it out, and I'm talking like guard it like a like a dog with a bone, man. I'm not going to work that day no matter what. And if there's ever anything that happens, then I'm taking out another day of the week and blocking it off so that I'm recovering that day, if that makes sense. Now, by God's grace, I'm in a position where I'm able to take really a day and a half off each week now in order to really try to rest and Sabbath. Mondays have become my day now because I'm in a position now in America where I travel quite a bit on the weekends to go preach at different places. And so because of that, a lot of times Saturday ends up being a travel day. And so Monday now, because I usually am back by Sunday evening, Monday has become my full day. And then sometimes if I'm not traveling, Saturday also becomes a day. So some weeks it's 2 days, some it's one, some it's a day and a half, but definitely Mondays, man, we're blocking that out and making sure that it's
no one gets in.
Yeah. Nothing gets in, man.
Yeah.
My wife is it, bro.
That's it.
And so, anyway, so that's kind of the story, man, of what happened leading up when it was not a season and where I was not being healthy. I was not focused on it. And then out of the stuff that came from that, now with consistent Sabbath, I'm a different person, man. I'm more at peace. I'm more at rest. You leave things to God that's in his hands. You don't take over responsibility onto yourself, and you're really just laying it at his feet, And so it's just been a tremendously different season.
Sure. Let's so I can definitely identify that. There's been seasons where I've listened to, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you get these messages in your head from these guys that are just crushing it in life. And you gotta hustle for a season, you gotta do all this stuff and make things happen.
Carry the boats. Who's gonna carry the logs?
Who's gonna carry logs? And I can tell you what, I try to block that out, but sometimes I'm just like, yeah, let's go. And then I'm like, golly, what's going on with me? And what you described there, which is like you were like the antithesis of the fruits of the Holy Spirit. That's me too. I can get bitter and angry, and there's always that root of it. So, but let's dig into the details. Again, we're not going to tell you how to Sabbath. We'll give you some. I always like to ask people, what do you do to Sabbath? What are some principles that you have, and then maybe you guys can take some of those. But I love the fact that you say, hey, that whole day is blocked out on Monday, and the only my wife gets in it's for me, my wife, and my family. Yeah. But what does Josh do on Monday? What happens?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's not as it's probably not going to be as impressive as what you think it might be. Well, the first 3 hours are with me alone, and I get my cup of coffee every day, and whatever. For me, I mean, I still take the kids to school, of course. Like my kids have to go to school that day, and I get up, take them to school, but I don't have anything else scheduled the whole day that is going to be like stressful work stuff. Like I'm not emailing that day. I'm not doing any of that stuff. So I'm literally saying no work is going to get done today that is going to be of any sort of, importance. Most of the time, my wife and we'll do a date lunch that day. We'll go out together, have lunch together, spend time together, just hearing one another. I'll take a nap sometimes on a Monday that, if I need some extra rest or whatever, maybe a Monday afternoon, I'll take a nap. There's times my wife and I would go out, and if she loves to shop. And so sometimes we'll go out and shopping together or whatever. Just there during the summertime, if it's possible, I may get out and golf 9 holes or something that I enjoy doing, or whatever it might be. But it's really just, yeah, there's times with Jesus, of course, on Mondays, but that is, I want that to be consistent every day, whether it's a Sabbath or not. I want to have consistent time alone with Jesus, but really, rather than it being, oh, I'm going to fast and pray every Monday, and that's going to be what, it's more about, man, our bodies and our souls need rest. We need to be filled. We need to do things we enjoy. We need to have things that actually fill our tank, not drain our tank. I love what Wayne Cordero said. He wrote the book Leading on Empty. I don't know if you've ever read that book or heard of that, but he was a pastor in Hawaii and wrote a book where he went through a similar thing. He wasn't Sabbathing at all, went through burnout. And he said, basically, we have a gas tank in our souls. And there are things that drain that tank and things that fill that tank. And every man is different. And so you've got to determine what are the things that fill up that tank and what are the things that drain that tank. And on a Sabbath, you need to get like all the stuff that fills that tank up, man. That's what you need to be doing. And if that's sleeping, if that's resting, if that's reading, if that's going out with your wife, if it's whatever, plan it so that your tank is getting filled up, because God designed that day in the beginning to be a day of rest, right? And so rest, relaxation, refilling, that's the way God designed it, because he knows that we are limited human beings and we need it. Like, when God put Sabbath in, bro, he didn't need to rest. I mean, we're talking about God here, right?
Right.
So,
But I love how you just transition in there, because there's a pattern in Scripture for human beings and for men and for everyone, and the Sabbath is part of that pattern. And he gave that for that specific reason. Okay, Sabbath, and here's why he is part of the creation ordinance from the beginning. And so it's not just a rule; it's an opportunity for spiritual refreshment. That's where you just say, hey, there's stuff that needs to come out, there's stuff that needs to come in. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
So
and honestly, Michael, like with with God, if you think about it, God creates man on day 6. Day 7 is the day of rest, the Sabbath. So you're talking day 1 in humanity. So they're just created fresh, Eve's fresh out of the rib. Okay. And he's like, day 1, I want you guys to just chill, bro. Like, you're not doing anything.
Right.
Which it was day 7 for God. So he had been working all week, but it was day 1 for humanity.
Wow.
And he's basically saying, I want you to start this with resting in me and then go out and work. And so I heard somebody say once, it's not us resting from work, it's us working out of rest. And so the rest actually in creation started first, and then we begin to work out of that. And so often in modern history, we get that backwards, man. We are so exhausted that now we've got to crash and rest so that we can go work some more. But God starts creation actually with humanity saying, actually, I want rest to be first. And then you're going to work out of the filling that you've gotten during that rest.
That's good. That's good. I haven't heard it put that way. I would have been one of the fall into, hey, you rest after you get all the work done. And so that's a really good juxtaposition, because that's how much every time the new stuff that you find in Scripture just blows your mind. And that's something that, okay, all right, that I can, I'm going to sit with that for a little bit. That's good. So, Sabbath, do you guys do anything for Sabbath dinner? Do you do anything with your family at night with kids?
Yeah. Once the kids are home, I mean, we do dinner together, honestly, God's put us in a really sweet season as a family right now. We almost every night of the week, we're doing dinner together as a family, which is great. But yeah, Mondays, but we've honestly not, Michael, done like Mondays are going to be a special dinner or anything like that. Honestly, it's a good idea though. I like that. I think we may think about actually implementing something like that, but yeah, we do have dinner as a family together. Mondays, by God's grace as well, my kids are not involved in any activities that land on a Monday. And so Monday evenings, also the kids are just at home and we're all hanging out and chilling together. So we also don't plan any meetings Monday nights. Like it's all Monday. So
Right.
so I'm not planning, oh, I get to rest all day Monday, but then Monday evening, I've got this dinner meeting I got to go to. I've got this I got to go to. There's this program I have to lead. It's literally, all Monday and into the evening. We're blocking all of it out, and it's just for personal time and family time, and that's it.
Right. That's great. The dinner, we're trying to implement that. We're spotty on that. But we got 4 kids, and we have fiancés and a boyfriend over here that looks like it's hopefully headed in the right direction. But we love getting together and eating big feasts, big meals, and just hanging out. And that is that's something that we try to do. We don't do it on every Sabbath, but we definitely try to do that. It's interesting, your story. I've heard it from a couple other pastors. They've struggled with the same thing. They've had a season in their life. There's a gentleman that he's a pastor of a church here locally called Harvest Church. His name is Ken Vaughn, and he has 4 boys, and they're in the middle of teenage life with all 4. Like they're all packed together, and they're all in sports. And a couple of years ago, he said, Mike, I'm pastoring this church, and I'm telling my congregation, you need a Sabbath, and I preach on Sabbath. Do you think I was Sabbathing? He said, we had our boys were not even going to church on Sundays. They were at baseball tournaments and stuff like that with other families that we trusted. But he goes, we got into this cycle of this. We have talented boys, and we're like, okay, should they do this? And it just kind of, it's my fault, but it happened. And his wake up call was pretty dramatic. Very dramatic. He got he was flying down to Texas with 4 of another pastor at his church and 2 of the elders. And as they were going to land, the plane lost engine and failure and crashed. And he was the only one that survived. His prayer was right before he knew he was going down is Lord, let me be there for the boys. That was it. He goes, I knew we were going down. Let me be there for the boys. And when he crashed, he woke up 10 or 15 minutes after it crashed. He was in a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. And he knew that everybody in there within about a minute was gone. He said, and so there was this thing that happened. He goes, oh, he goes, God answered my prayer. And, all this stuff's hitting him at once. And so he was a pastor. So, pastors don't, when you're pastoring a church, lead pastor church, you got a tough job. And I think they've got a big congregation. So he goes, I had to do nothing but sit in a chair for 6 months. And everything stopped. All the kids' activities just stopped. And he goes, that was the time that I was taught something. It was the sweetest, best time of my life, and I'm in pain, and it's just me and my family and my wife and my boys. And so we just stopped all the competitive stuff. And I realized what God was basically saying, no, I'm going to make you stop. And so I heard him speak about this a couple months ago at a men's event. And he was just really getting after us as men and as husbands about our priorities and about the Sabbath. He goes, because your Sabbath, that's a pattern that you're going to set for your children as well. They're going to follow it as well. And they got to have something to go back to. And so, it's not lost on us that, if you're a pastor, if you're somebody that's struggling, say, I'm just working at both ends, please, go to Christ. Go to God, go to Scripture, read about the Sabbath, why it's important, and let it change you, let it have its effect on you.
That's good, Michael. Yeah, I honestly, man, what was really challenging to me, while as we were thinking through the Sabbath stuff, I've also been kind of a serial entrepreneur. I've started a lot of different things and started a business where there was a guy that I was working with pretty closely that was Jewish, and he was a pretty devout Jew. and man, they take Shabbat, like their Sabbath, they take it so seriously, man. And theirs is from, Friday, Friday at sundown, all the way until sundown Saturday. So it's a different day because that's the way the Jewish calendar works. Um, and I remember, bro, we'd be talking on a Friday afternoon about some business thing, and he's like, "Well, here in about 10 minutes, man, I'm shutting my phone off, and I won't be available till tomorrow night." And he was serious and dead serious, bro. I'm shutting everything down. And so it did not matter what we were doing at a certain time, where I forget where he lived exactly, but he knew around when sun was going to be going down on a Friday afternoon or evening. And it's like, from that time on, man, I will not be available until tomorrow evening. And so it doesn't matter what's happening or burning down. We could not get a hold of him. It didn't matter. And they are so dedicated to that, bro. And honestly, people respected it in the business. It
Right.
wasn't like some horrible thing. It's like, oh, like you just start working around that. You start planning things so that a major thing's not happening when he's not going to be available. People start planning around that when you're dedicated. But when you start flubbing around and you're not that serious about it, people don't take it seriously either.
Right.
And they don't respect it. But when you're dead serious about it and disciplined about it, like that business guy was that I worked with, people just expect it, they know it, and they're okay with it.
Right.
It's not that in the world, shocking, the world didn't burn down,
Right.
during that 24-hour period. It's okay. The world keeps spinning. God's still in control. It's going to be okay. And we're not God, we're not God's gift to the nations.
Right.
And it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay.
It will be, but it's funny that is the avatar for most entrepreneurs. Is they're like, you know what, I got to be available at all times, at any time. If it's not up to me, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And boy, that's a fun statement to really think about. And it's something that entrepreneurs do struggle with. Well,
hey, Jesus and me,
yeah.
that's all the world needs, man.
That's
Jesus
it.
and me. Yeah, that's it.
We got it. We got it. Well, Josh, any final thoughts about Sabbath and about anything else? Any things, any other practical observance or things we could talk about with regard to Sabbath?
Dude, I'd love to hear, like, if you've got any rhythms that you guys do as a family. I know obviously you're trying to do the dinner thing, but is there anything else? Like, what's your Sabbath look like, when you're trying to go after it?
So, not a pastor, right? On Sabbath Sunday. So, one of the things I try to do is on Saturday nights is just on Saturday nights kind of prepare for Sunday, and so I got to go. It's not we don't have a lot of things planned necessarily on Saturday. We're probably doing some dinner on Saturday with the kids, but on Sunday we go to church, and we love. One of the things that I see and our kids have a love of going to church. And I think most of them do. I would say that, and they also serve in church. And so part of it is, and we're serving the teenagers, and we're having fun, and we're doing that. So we get up, get breakfast, get to church on Sunday, and then we come home, and then most of us have lunch together. The older one might go out lunch with his girlfriend, but they come home. And we just rest, and we kind of vegetate and just kind of hang out, not do a lot on Sunday. We have a big backyard. Not now because it's not fun right now in the winter, but we're always out there. We have a pool. We just go out there and hang out. We may have some people over. Sometimes we have friends come over. I have a buddy of mine that smokes a lot of meat. So I tell that guy, hey, listen, if you're smoking an extra brisket, come on over. And so we just kind of use that Sunday as just a chill. Now, are we great at it all the time? No. Does some things, sometimes some things get in the way? Yes. There are things, but that's kind of the rhythm of a Sunday for us. And yeah, that's it. But the one thing that we would love to, as our family grows and my kids get married, we'd love for them to just come to the hub. at this house as a hub to have dinner on a Sunday night to really just enjoy and celebrate Christ and celebrate the Sabbath.
That's good, bro.
Yeah, that's
That's awesome.
kind of what we do.
That's great. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think, I've found, especially like entrepreneurs and things, when we do have the day off, we tend to like use it to get all the extra work done that we've been putting off, like whether it's work around the house or cleaning this or doing that or whatever. And that's really not what God had in mind. It's not like the slush fund day.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it ends up being a lot of times. Now, I will say there are guys that they do get filled with hopping on a lawnmower outside and getting by themselves and putting some AirPods in and listen to some podcasts, and it actually fills their soul to have time to do that. And if that's you, like, then that may be something that you could do on a Sabbath day that isn't necessarily work for you. It's actually filling for you. I think that's great. For me, dude, if I hopped on a lawnmower on a Sabbath, it would not be rest. Like,
Right.
that's not what that is all work and no play for me. Okay. And so that is not the thing that I'm going to be doing on a Sabbath day. And so you've got, everybody is built differently. They have a different personality. They have a different, like we talked about earlier, different things fill them and different things drain them. And so I would even encourage those listening, Michael, like, sit down and do an inventory, like list the things that you do and figure out what are the things that fill you and what are the things that drain you, right? Like Wayne Cordero, that guy I told you about who wrote the book Leading on Empty, he said he realized that what filled him so much was hopping on his motorcycle and going for a long drive. Like that just filled his soul, man, seeing God's beauty, getting out there, being by himself. And he said, so he consistently started blocking out time where he could go do that because that filled his soul more than anything else that he was doing. Right. And so it helped him connect with God, connect with nature. He could pray while he was on the bike and stuff like that. Anyway, I would encourage people, start making a list of things and decide, is this a neutral thing where it doesn't really fill you or take away? It's just kind of a neutral activity. Is it a filling activity or a draining activity? If you're introverted, you probably want to spend a lot of your Sabbath alone with a couple close people. If you're extroverted, you may want to get some people around you in order to get filled up that day, right? Like every person is different. Personalities are different. And so I want to encourage you guys, like, man, if you're not Sabbathing right now, number one, take it from me. You are on a fast road to burnout. You're on a fast road to some tremendous amounts of anger and bitterness beginning to come up later on in life. When we don't live the way that God's built things, he did it for our good, guys. Like it's because he knows our hearts and what we need. And so we've got to lean in and really make the time and effort to see that happen. And so I would encourage you, take an inventory, write some stuff down, and start blocking some stuff out one day a week to say, okay, here's the stuff that fills me. I'm going to get as many of those things as I can to be planned out over a Sabbath day so that I can connect with God, connect with my family, connect with my heart and soul, and get filled up again. So that way, I can live a life of overflow. I think so often, Michael, we live such a life on empty all the time that we don't have much to give other people. Like we're just running so hard, man.
Quarter tank. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. All good stuff. And I like that. I wrote down a couple of things too, because I don't have the one of the things that I like to do. Of course, if I was Mr. Cordero and I was in Hawaii, that would be pretty awesome to be on a motorbike.
There you go. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I gotta figure out what that is for me. So I love that. So again, folks, hey, thanks for watching the Iron D podcast. This was a great talk on Sabbath, and we hope that you guys will continue to listen to us, comment, like, subscribe is what they tell us to ask you to do. And let us know in the comments, how do you celebrate Sabbath? What's your MO for the Sabbath? And and then folks, again, we love you. Thank you for watching.